Here are to the ones who protect us when our privacy is in danger. Our bank accounts from malware attacks, our websites and servers from cyberbugs, and our social media and email accounts from dangerous hackers. But sometimes, security requires even more. Join the biggest cybersecurity virtual conference in Africa to learn more advanced protocols on how to protect your data and your clients' data online. Happening on 16th and 17th April 2021, live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Your digital security just got safer.
It's amazing to have every one of us connecting today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're connecting from. As we all know, we are here because disruption has become the new normal and security is our key. We are in the day 2 of our webinar, our cybersecurity virtual webinar. The theme remains Global Trends in Digital Identity, and it aims to educate, to inspire, and to support every participant of this webinar to be well informed and to better strategize to ensure the security of first, their personal data, which is all over on the internet on various platforms as well, and also to their businesses and organizations. We see that the cyber attackers are coming up always with different trends. So the necessity for us to take this webinar seriously and to make sure we get value for our time today. My name is Vivian Carlo, and I'll be the MC for today's event. And I'll try to keep every one of us up on time so that we do not exceed your time. The Global Trends in Digital Identity is a 2-day webinar, and today happens to be the 2nd day. And we cannot also proceed in today's event without acknowledging the assistance of all our supporters. Worthy to mention is the 3 big supporters: the COVR Security, the AVRUST, and the Cloud Technologies. The COVR Security is the next generation multi-factor authentication champion. They provide mobile multi-factor authentication as a service to a wide range of industries that depend on strong customer authentication, like the banks, the payment networks, the credit card companies, the electronic ID providers, the Internet of Things companies, and mobile carriers. COVR Security has user-friendly solutions that is built on modern architecture originating from the Nordic Bank Security. We also have the AVRUST. AVRUST is a tech consultancy firm registered here in Nigeria. They offer end-to-end IT solutions through integrated services, IT consulting, cybersecurity service, and their mission is to be the most innovative in the IT space. They have strategic partnership with local and international original equipment manufacturers to deploy the latest cybersecurity services here in Nigeria, and then to provide cutting-edge intelligent technical solutions and consulting services to businesses, governments, and organizations. We have the Cloud Space Technologies, which is Africa's top cybersecurity and cloud solutions company. They are a home for advanced cloud security, office cloud, and forensic identity solutions. These 3 have been so generous in saying to the success of today's event. They gave us their leadership, they gave us their creativity, and their time as well, to make sure that today is a success. So from these organizers, we'll see that we are in here today for a very serious business. We have, well, 4 panelists that are outstanding and doing amazing things in this security ecosystem. And they'll be speaking today exclusively on some selected topics. We will also be diving better into some technicalities today. So what you have mentioned is Arinze Mbaito. Arinze Mbaito is from Nigeria, and he's the head of information technology at Keystone Bank. We're also privileged to have Engineer Touch. Engineer Touch is also from Nigeria. Engineer Touch is also from Nigeria, and he's the founder, Meno Finance Limited. He's also the VP at Cloud Space Technologies Limited. He'll be speaking to us today on cyber risk and fraud management, and will be showing us some technical aspects of this fraud management and cyber risk. Amazingly, today, this webinar is also graced with Mats Holmfeldt from Sweden. Mats is an ex-banker, he's an entrepreneur, and he's an investor. So you'll be hearing him speak as well today, and also attend to some of our questions as we may have arisen. Another personality that we pulled from his tight schedule today is Victor Venelund, also from Sweden. Victor is the Director of Global Projects, and he will also be delving technically into digital identity. Worthy of mention is to let us know that we have a Q&A session just down your screen there. So feel free to make use of it. You can begin by letting us know where you're connecting from. And as the webinar unfolds, if you have any questions you want to be attended to, just drop it there. We'll pick it and then answer it at the end of the webinar. We'll also be having some polls coming our way intermittently, and we crave you to try to respond to these polls. Also, at the end of the event, you'll be filling out a survey to help us know what we did right as to what more we are supposed to do, just to make sure you're completely satisfied and you got value for sitting this day for this webinar. So please do sit back and relax, because I'm convinced that you'll be glad you partook of today's webinar. And with these remarks, we declare Global Trends in Digital Identity Webinar Day 2 open by inviting Mats Holmfeldt for his presentation and introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. It's a pleasure to be here today. With the booming digitalization globally, we see an increased number of frauds for many people, which raises the question, is it possible to improve customer experience without compromising the security? My name is Mats Holmfeldt, and I have been in the epicenter of transformation towards digital ID and mobile ID during the last 20 years. Being a banker, ex-banker, based in Sweden, working with fintech and green finance companies for the last 10, 12 years. And since 5 years ago, approximately, I teamed up with COVR Security. So this is a truly exciting environment. Without proof of identity, people may be denied access to their rights and services, and they may be unable to open a bank account, attend school, collect benefits such as social security, seek legal protection, or otherwise engage in the modern society. Digital identity is a powerful key to inclusion. It counts both for social and political inclusion. It's about rights protection and transparency to help guard against child marriage, slavery, and even human trafficking. Some figures today that is interesting to mention is we have 3.2 billion people that are not yet active in the digital economy. And the global digital identity market is, of course, very, very interesting. We will see an increase in growth when it comes to GDP from approximately not in GDP, growth from revenues from US dollar 13.7 billion back in 2019 up to 30.4 billions into 2024. And we see that when you start working with a digital identity and also move into mobile identity, the growth on a country level, the GDP growth will take off with somewhere between 3 and up to 13%. And this is actually, the higher figures are from the emerging markets. So we see that this is something really, really interesting for the African market. All this boils down to trust. So what about trust in the future? I mean, whom will you trust? Will it be the authorities? Will it be the banks? Will it be the private sector? Or is it only yourself that you will trust in the future? Digital identity is fundamental for the future. Next page, please. So a little bit about global trends. Some trends that we see that are really happening today is the digital transformation. This is not new. You all know about digital transformation. It has been keep going for a number of years. Also the view that customer first, as well as real time and AI. But these four trends are still very high up on this kind of trend list. And the key is that they are actually boosting each other. So some important notes for the future is that we will continue to see more mobility. And today, about 52% of the global internet traffic is mobile. We will, of course, see greater demand for security and trust. I mean, today, in today's economy and what we are heading towards, it's very much about me, my identity. It's about my mobile device. And if we combine that, then we will get the mobile identity. And this is a true enabler for the future. An accelerating shift towards smart cities is also something we will see coming quicker and quicker. And this will actually be our future playground. And this will call for more calls for public supervision of digital identification systems. And we will also see more initiatives, of course, regarding national ID card and eID programs. So this is very much happening right now. And the way to success, that is actually treating citizens like customers. If you do that, you will triple the value impact. Some considerations or notes is, I mean, if you can imagine improving end-to-end public service delivery via a unique digital identity. If you can imagine that you use the cloud as an innovation driver on a country level, that you allow innovation accelerators, and that the government is supporting all this, and you actually get a smart government and keep the citizen experience very high up in your hierarchy, what you're focusing on. That will be a tremendous shift towards the new digital economy, and you will be able to move pretty quickly. So, last note, is it possible to respond to the trends and improve customer experience without compromising the security? Well, I guess there are a lot of you out there that some of you believe it's not impossible. Some of you might believe it is. My opinion is it's absolutely possible to actually combine those two. The new technology is there, and that technology can actually combine customer experience with high level of security. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Matt, for that exposition. Yes, it's possible to combine the transformation with the customer first experience. So with that, please we welcome Victor Venelon to make his presentation and introduction. Thank you.
Sorry, there we go. Thank you very much. So yes, my name is Victor Venland. I am the Director of Global Projects and Digital Identity at COVR Security. My experience is quite extensive when it comes to cybersecurity and also the payments industry. So Mats covered the global trends and essential elements for financial inclusion, as well as trust. But really, as human beings, to trust the authorities and consider starting to use a digital identity, there needs to be fundamental understanding of what this enables for you as a user, a citizen or customer in that way. And what do we actually mean with digital identity? I'd like to welcome you all to see our brand and our solution helping millions of people worldwide, known as IAM. So instead of having something that is related to identity and ID, we chose to actually put out a brand to the mass market in the world that is something that you can relate to. You can relate to your nation. In my case, I would say I am Swedish. You can relate to different industries. If you're into fashion, I am fashion, and so forth. So it is a play on words, but IAM actually stands for a shortening that is also Identity Access Management. So the ecosystem of digital identity is what we have around us in our day-to-day life. We use our devices more than ever before. We even sometimes don't mind if we've forgotten our wallet or credit card or even keys at home. As long as we have our smartphones, we should be just fine, right? And I believe that a lot of you can relate to what I just said in regards to this. But there's more to it than meets the eye. We can't visit actually our branch office or our bank or our doctor without perhaps having a physical copy of this identity card. And it all starts with this plastic card. I see you seeing it now. And this is issued by the government in many times, and it is issued to us for identification purposes. So eventually, the essential trust to government and public and private sector that needs to start at the beginning of what this identity is and what digital identity is. But in the future, we will come to a time where this plastic card or this passport that we carry around will no longer be the primary means of identification actually in the real world. There are going to be digital identities living on our smartphones. And it's not actually about when it's going to happen. It is a fact that it's already happening around us, and it's going to happen perhaps quicker than we think as well. So we really aim to let the users be in control of their own data to really gain this type of trust and loyalty. And individuals have no control over their data today. Your information is in someone else's hands. You don't know who you have shared it with. You don't know who has it. There's really no way to track it. Personal data equals currency. And individuals' data in itself is used as currency. They want quick access, and reusing the same password is severely unsafe. So controlling your data is a privacy first design by approach that we focus on. And this is to enable also the zero knowledge proof. And controlling your own data and sharing it based on consent, that gives actually the user the transparency that they need. They know from there who they share this data with and what they share and where it is as well. So let's take an example. For a company to find out if someone is of age, you don't, in this case, need to see their full ID with photo and address printed on it. Neither actually the date of birth. So all they need to know is that someone has verified this identity and that the person is over a certain age. Credential, all of a sudden, that is presented is now actually tailored towards the question that has been asked. So I am in itself is one device, your device actually holding your unique ID protected by military grade security. So we go from the point that we have the government issuing our identity, that is scanned by the user. We also include biometrics. We bind this to the user's device, making sure that no one else than you as user can, change any type of the data. And the data actually should not be changed if it's not relevant to what your identity is as well. So when we're claiming the control of your identity and data in the form of a digital identity in a wallet on your device, you no longer need to present particular or specific document types. Since it is verified now, as I mentioned, with different attributes, as we touched upon in the previous slide here, it can confirm if it is from a passport, making it eligible for travel in a case, a driver's license, authorizing you to drive a vehicle, be a part of car sharing service. And we don't just focus on the fact that this plastic card of identification or passport now comes in a digital form. There's also these attributes added and connected to your digital identity, which is very important to keep in mind. So if that is to check your address, or if you're a politically exposed person, that should be there and connected. You can add any information related to your digital identity with your control. And in the future, you may want to share your education and degree, your professional license perhaps. Ultimately, the list can go on with many other things associated to a digital identity. So if we look at this from the ecosystem, that was the topic of this presentation. There's so many different areas where we can actually reuse this. If you're a gamer playing computer games, I probably know that some of you tech people love that. I do myself. Connect this towards health, identify yourself at your doctor's, or if you're having a smart home, shopping, tax, government, you name it. So with all these different use cases, the ecosystem can genuinely spark the imagination to unlimited accessibility. So if your digital identity is used to rent a condo through Airbnb, or verify who you are when you're jumping into an Uber or a taxi, or even opening up a bank account, that's completely up to you, because you're still in control of your data and your digital identity that way. So the key to this is the endless interoperability. And what I mean with interoperability is the reuse of your digital identity. If that is issued as a government national digital ID, or if it's issued to you being connected to any type of service, you should have the enablement of using this cross-border. So signing up for a challenger bank in your neighboring country, if they have operations towards your country, you should enable that. But also cross-industry. So if you open up your digital identity, if that is issued from the government, you want to be able to use it at your bank. Or if it's issued by your bank, you want to be able to use it when you're traveling, and so forth. So here you see some great examples of how it can be used as well. So now it's time to create, secure, reclaim, and actually reuse your identity. Be in control of what you share with whom and how you share it. So really, as I mentioned before, this plastic card that is issued from us and everything like that, to give you an overview of how this user experience is actually for you as a user, we work together with the largest KYC providers in the world. These are the ones that are identifying yourselves once you're sitting in the sofas at home, connecting to these challenger banks, and also banks that has come from the old legacy to the innovation standards of digital banking today as well. But there's so many different services, crypto, car sharing, as I mentioned, Airbnb, and so forth. So really, we're taking the KYC that you have up in the left corner, we're combining that with the security from COVR Security, and that is military grade security. It's an out-of-band technology, super secure for you as a user. No communication can be compromised, which is very, very important to know. And together that enables this type of platform that creates the ID. So really, IAM is actually, that I forgot to mention, which is very important, the world's first interoperable platform. And there are other initiatives out there, such as MasterCard and Microsoft and different other companies as well, that are doing this in different ways. We're coming from the neutral standpoint and welcoming a lot of different companies to give their input to this as well, which is quite interesting. So coming from there, if we look at this from a little bit the architectural design, and on a very high level, because I do know some of you may not be super technically advanced. So from the government, they issue this physical ID, which is number one. The consumer later scans their identity through an eKYC provider. There's multiple of them, Hyperverge, Jumio, Onfido, and so forth. And then the eKYC provider, they provide the assurance because they have the knowledge and the basis of doing this. And the business in itself, service providers, banks, or different public or private sectors, they trigger the creation of this digital identity through the eKYC provider. And then from there, the digital identity is issued through the IAM platform. And ultimately, as mentioned previously, this actually enables the universe of services as IAM Home, IAM Health, IAM Travel, and so forth as well. So that was what I had to share about the architectural design and a little bit the technology. And I hope that triggers as well some questions from you in the audience. So with this said, I'd like to welcome you all once again to our solution called IAM Digital Identity. And if you want to know more and listen more to these type of talks that we have around digital identity and everything, stay tuned. There's going to be a podcast coming up here ahead where you can be ahead of the curve about digital identity. And this will be up on Spotify, Apple, and different platforms as well. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much. And if you're interested in following me, please follow me on LinkedIn as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victor. Thank you for that insight. Can smartphone really overtake the plastic IDs and all that? You said yes, it's possible. So let's watch events unfold. Probably that's another trend by the cybersecurity experts. Thank you so much. Thank you also for letting us know once again about the podcast that is in view soonest. What we'll do is we have the email address of all the attendees. So once you hint us on the commencement, we'll notify every one of them because I'm sure that we'll be very happy, more than happy to join in when the podcast commences. Thanks once again for your presentation. So now we want to listen to Engineer Touch or Eche, Engineer Tochukwu or Eche. Over to you, Engineer Tochukwu. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I wish to welcome all our viewers and participants. I hope everybody can hear me. It's actually raining in the background. I hope I'm very much audible enough.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, so my name is Touch. I've been around the tech industry in Nigeria and the West Africa for some years now. I'm actually a tech consultant and a cybersecurity consultant as well. I'm the VP at Cloud Space Technologies and also the founder of Meno Finance Limited, a holding company for tech solutions and services across Africa. So basically, what I'm talking about today is the impact of digital identity on fraud management. So in the next slide, we're going to see the baseline definitions of what I'm talking about. Digital identity, as already mentioned by my fellow speaker, is actually a form of identity used by any digital device to represent an entity. I'm going to be using real-life examples and real-life scenarios so that everybody will understand what we're talking about. Because the truth of the matter is that our life has been permeated by technology. So most of the things that are happening in the technology space is also flowing into our physical lives. So when we talk about digital identity, now digital identity is being used outside the computer. So if you're carrying any identity card that has a chip on it, that is a digital card, then you're talking about digital identity. And every digital identity or digital information has information on it that has a unique ID. So this is also very important. So if you're talking about digital identity, there must be a unique parameter in your digital information that makes it a form of identity. So it could be your ID number, it could be your account number, it could be your fingerprint, any form of parameter that is unique to the entity makes it a digital ID. So it's happening either in the digital space or in the real life, in our real life activities. And then financial fraud happens when someone is depriving you of your financial assets. And this is through either you are being misled or you're being forced, or you're being your asset is taken away from you without your knowledge. So these two are related in the sense that in preventing fraud, digital identity sits in the center of fraud prevention. Other fraud prevention techniques are centered around digital identity and profiling of the entities. So in the next slide now, we're going to see how the different categories of digital identity. What we have here is the fact that, like I said earlier, these things are happening all around us. So you talk about the government issued digital ID cards, digital passports, and these are being captured in using a software. And most people have done their international passport, and you can see there is a point where your picture is taken, or you're signing a digital signature and all that, and you're giving a passport number as well. So these are all forms of digital identity. Then you talk about the organizational, where you have staff ID. You talk about customer, where you have a lot of customers in the bank having their own identity in form of account number and all that. And then you talk about a user logging into a system. He's having an identity in form of login details. He has a unique username and password. And then you talk about transactional digital identity, where you're using a soft token or a hard token for a transaction. And then you talk about anonymous identity, where your identity is not revealed, but is actually captured. And then you talk about network identity. Digital identity on the network, a good example of that is when you are in a public space and you are required to log into a particular Wi-Fi network, or you are a staff of a company and you have privilege to log into the office network, whereas the other public members who are not part of that entity are not able to access the network. Then you have the device identity, which is the baseline identity. We all have our phones that are passworded, and we have or use either password code or we use a pattern to unlock our phones. So devices also have their own identity, and of course they have their IMEI number. So when you make a transaction with a device, your device is actually recognized by the backend entity that your device is accessing. Then in the next slide, we're going to see the different aspects of factors of identity. Because when we talk about identity, it's what we live through in our everyday life. And we can see that in today's world, multi-factor identity has become the norm. It gives you more security. It gives you, it provides more trust, because when you have multi-factor means of identification in the digital space, what it means is that if one factor is compromised, the other factors will block or safeguard the activity that is being safeguarded. So if someone knows what you know, which is like your password or your pattern, then if your phone is equally locked with your fingerprint, of course, the person who stole your phone may not have your fingerprint, and the data in your phone is secure. So multi-factor authentication makes use of what you know, what you are, and what you have. So example of what you have is when your device is being verified, when you're doing a transaction and they send a code to your phone for you to enter the code from your phone. So in the next slide, we're going to see the different financial fraud use cases, because once again, these are everyday experience. And when your system is compromised, when your device or your bank account is compromised, you're going to be facing a lot of fraudulent activity. So the different fraud use cases that can be mitigated using a combination of digital identity solution and fraud management solution includes the following. You have identity compromised. Where identity compromise is when your device or your account or your login details have been compromised. So someone else is logging in just like yourself. You may be aware of this, or you may not be aware of this. So that is why, for instance, when they steal your card, your ATM card, you have to block that card from the bank. So you talk about database hack. This is when hackers, compromise the database and they're able to credit themselves or move money around directly in the database. And then you talk about device theft. Device theft is similar to identity compromise, because if your device is being used for identity, when your device is stolen, it's as well as your identity is also compromised. Then you have customer care fraud, which is very common in Nigeria and in Africa. When fraudsters call you and pretend to be calling you from your financial institution, asking you for vital information in the disguise that they are trying to help, maybe to unlock your card or to unlock your app. And then you have document forging, where people forge checks. You have malware attack. This is very advanced system where people send scripts to run in the environment and steal data from there. And then you have insider fraud, when an insider, a staff member, is compromising the system. And then you have forced extortion. This is also very common in Nigeria, because the kidnapping cases that are going on is also a form of financial fraud, where people are forced to deliver money. And this can also happen with our data or with our device. Someone can actually get into a bank and compromise their data and request for ransom as well. And then in the next slide, we're going to see how we are going to be providing solutions for all these problems. And we are saying that in any environment, you're going to need a combination of these solutions: the digital identity solution, a remote workforce solution, fraud management solution, of course, network security. I want to believe that every single organization already has a network security solution in place. But we are in a pandemic scenario, so a new trend now would be to equally have a remote workforce solution, which will enable employees and organizations to work remotely and provide business services remotely. And then, of course, we have the data security solutions that helps organizations to protect their data. And then in the next slide, we're going to see that right here within this webinar, we have two organizations that actually can help you with one of the two main areas that we're talking about, which is digital identity and fraud management. So Cloudsphere is already partnering with COVR to provide an integrated digital identity plus fraud management solution. And our proprietary fraud management solution is called Fraud Sniper. So in the next slide, we're going to see the problem that we have at hand, which is the fact that now we are having a pandemic scenario. A lot of transactions are happening in the digital space. And this means that there is more surfaces that are being exposed via online payments and online transactions. So which means that organizations, especially financial organizations, have to invest more in their digital identity solution and also in their fraud management solution. So in the next slide, we're going to see our product, Fraud Sniper. So Fraud Sniper is actually a solution that mitigates transactional fraud using behavioral analytics. So what it means is that this software uses artificial intelligence to study and profile all customers in such a manner that after deployment, when the customers are now doing transactions in real time, their transactions are monitored and are detected for fraud. And so in the next slide, we're going to see some of the use cases. So the use cases for a standard fraud management solution, especially our own product, Fraud Sniper, includes fraudulent USSD transactions, transactions originating from hacked bank accounts, transactions originating from stolen devices and phones, fake products and services, fraudulent bank haul transactions, false transactions and extortions, and then anti-money laundering. So everybody, at least in Nigeria, knows someone or he or herself has been a victim of one of these use cases that we have for fraud. And so in the next slide, we're going to see some of the things that's being done by our solution to prevent all these activities. So what we can do from now on is to have a scenario where we can get back to us in terms of any need for any digital identity solution. COVR is here for you, and the fraud management solution, Cloudspace, is there for you. Thank you very much.
My name is Aaron Beto. I work with Keystone Bank. I'm the head of IT operations. IT operations is the department that is charged with ensuring that this is working properly and available for customers to use. So I've actually been involved in a number of implementations, ensuring that all our mobile services, our channel services, our ATM services, core banking services are very much in sync and are working properly. So I've had over 20 years experience in banking and also in technology. So I'm here to present to you the multi-factor authentication. Basically, what it simply means is a way of accessing your device or accessing the network location using multiple attributes. You know, for now, what we are used to is just passwords. But over the time, we have seen that password alone can easily be compromised, in the sense that we have had experience where people even share their password, unknowingly the person who will give the password in trust now use it for fraudulent purposes. We have also seen a situation where people will write their passwords on piece of paper or notebooks, and when the notebook get lost, people will get those passwords, and of course use it for fraudulent purposes. So that's why the advent of multi-factor authentication was actually conceptualized, because at no point in time that those attributes of yours will be made available to people. It's very, very rare. You understand? Except when there's maybe when there's a cohesion, or when there's now something like force. That is when it will occur that all the attributes will now be available to a fraudster. So basically, multi-factor authentication gives us ensures that the user the user indeed is who we say he is, by requiring him to provide all those information at least two. So if you look at it, the multi-factor authentication, those attributes will be in terms of what you know, which is your password, your PIN, and your secret answer. When you are trying to enroll in the service. Then, of course, what you have, which will be a hard token, which is issued by the bank, for instance, or the organization. Then, of course, what you are, which is your like your facial recognition, your iris, and of course the fingerprint. So those are the question of this is what is now made use of, in most cases to ensure that service is accessed. For instance, I remember it's now an incident that happened in my house, which has also happened in the issue of where connive with some staff of the bank to log into the hardware of processors. The keylogger they need to harvest passwords, but of course to use it to more like studio the owners of the password and use it to commit fraud. It has happened in my version, and it has happened in several organizations. So that is when organizations and companies started coming up with additional factors of ensuring that security is actually incorporated. So as it is now, for you to be able to even access a network location in my bank now, you must provide a password and as well as a token, which is an additional level of authentication. Then beyond that also, the central bank has actually mandated all the banks that are actually offering mobile services to ensure that multi-layer of authentication is actually incorporated. As a matter of fact, the set thresholds, they are meant to convenience customers a lot. Thresholds are normally set. For instance, if you are using a mobile bank today, mobile banking solution today, and you want to do a transfer of above a certain level, definitely your PIN is not enough. You must include your token, which can be a kind of hard token or even a soft token on the phone. Then, of course, even at a certain level of transactions, the fingerprint is also required. So this is what organizations are doing these days, adopting multi-factor authentication that ensure that transactions that are carried are actually secure for the interest of the organization and the interest of the customers. So according to research from foreign investigative reports of 2017, those the fact that passwords alone are not adequate. Therefore, all these have actually boosted the use of multi-factor authentication. And very few organizations today will not have adopted this. Most organizations actually go for this, even though now that it's more of a banking perspective. And most banks and some other banks, non-bank providers, service providers are also adopting multi-factor authentication very quickly. Now, for organizations to adopt multi-factor authentication, they actually have a lot of considerations to ensure that the use case is actually adequate for their environment. They review the needs that they have. Of course, look at the exact environment they operate in. We need to also look at the knowledge level of who they are in adopting all the particular multi-level authentication that will be used. But by and large, this is one of the best ways of securing transactions. So just like I mentioned earlier, this options look at the whole range of options, to be sure that even though we have to adopt this multi-level authentication, of course, we are able to keep the business. We also need to be sure that the customers themselves, their transactions are secure, and at the same time, they also have convenience, and the experience is actually worthwhile and it's easy and easily acceptable for the customers, because the essence of setting up the business is actually for the customers. Yes, we have to protect them, but the experience also need to be seriously considered. So they consider a whole lot of action. They look at the flexibility, and of course also look at the emergency requirements. How a customer can easily, maybe when he has misplaced the token, what happens, for instance. Then of course when his phone has stolen, what happens, and all that. So all these are put into consideration for a particular multi-factor or multi-level authentication that will be adopted, incorporated into the business. Is accepted. Now, having said this, definitely, much as we have of advantages, we also have some degree of disadvantage of multi-level authentication. But if the device, for instance, is stolen, definitely at that point in time, where to involve consumption will not be carried out. So the customer may now need to adopt a kind of emergency approach, which must have been incorporated into the design, to be able to enable to carry out transaction. But definitely that transaction may not be as much as the threshold that will be required using the token. Then of course we have cases where SMSs are intercepted. For instance, when PIN or OTP is being sent through SMS, we have had cases, reported cases where these are used by fraudulent intents. More so now that even cloning of is still happening very much these days. And of course, even the algorithm that are used to design the multiple levels for tokens and all that, we had cases where the algorithm has been cracked and the seed codes and my use of the front end, of course, the also computer has limitations. I'm sure the accurate level of use cases will help organizations to see be able to forge ahead. We feel that beyond the multi-level authentication, organizations need to start looking at the future level of authentication, which is being adopted now, where the behavioral patterns and the mannerisms of the users, are also kept and observed, during transaction. Also implementing some security technology that will allow whether the transaction should go through or not, after assessing the mannerism for which the request is being accepted. For instance, where somebody is used to being receiving inflow or carrying out transactions of 10,000, and suddenly when you see like 1 million in the account or something like that, it puts everyone on alert. So the organizations have started adopting this. I know that we are, for instance, in migration, we are already coming up with a BI solution for managing frauds. So this is what organizations also tend to do. And I also encourage the organizers of this program, COVR Security, and as well as the AVRUST and the cyberspace and all those, to also harmonize their energy together, because there's a lot of opportunity in this area for them in terms of business, and of course for organizations in ensuring that their customers' transactions are secure. So having said all this, I think this brings the end to my presentation on multi-factor authentication. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Arinze. Thank you. We sincerely apologize for all the glitches. It's connectivity issues because of the rainbow. I think it's very much better now. And Touch, thank you also for your presentation. Both of you, the last two spoke more on multi-factor authentication, and that caught me because during this pandemic alone, there has been a lot of notifications, engendering everyone to try to have multi-factor authentication. It's all over on WhatsApp, even Telegram, and then even some of the social media accounts like Facebook. multi-factor authentication. And I started asking myself, has this thing actually been in existence or did it just come up now? Thank you so much. I believe the participants also are feeling the same way. Arinze, also, we appreciate the heads up you gave us concerning the benefit of this digital identity. And the feedback is taken and we'll work on that. And that's part of the reasons we are having this webinar. So we now move to our Q&A session. To the participants, please, if you have any questions or gray areas, kindly drop your questions in the Q&A session and then we'll pick from there and attend to them, all right? So we move now to the questions and answers. And but before we move to that, let's quickly take a poll, a very short poll. I implore us to try to participate in the poll. Thank you. Well, we can see that people using similar passwords is a 50-50. I believe this is an eye-opener for us to try to adopt the multi-factor authentication and have a better secured password. Has someone we know been a victim? 79% of the respondents responded in the affirmative that yes, they have people that have been defrauded. And then to ask the question about if we will adopt the new fintech solution that integrates the several banking hardware tokens into a single friendly mobile solution. And 93% of the respondents responded in the affirmative again, saying yes, they would adopt it. So thanks so much for your responses. All have been taken. Okay, the second poll is on. Please do well to respond as well. All right, so thank you so much for your responses. Please, for the people that responded that they still use the same password across all their accounts, I believe from this exposition, we have seen the importance of having a better secured access by having diversities and variances in our login details. Please, let's try to adopt that. That's why we are having this webinar today. Then for how do you have a security tool in your business? 38% says yes, and then 62% responded no, they don't have. So I believe that after now, you will sensitize your business, your organization on the need to have this. 100% said yes, they would adopt. And then, are you comfortable using a selfie? Yes. 92% says yes, 100% says yes as well to using selfie. meaning just our images are alone to grant us the digital identity that we need. Thank you so much for your responses. And the reasons for this is not just for fun's sake, it's for us to go on implementing them, right? Okay, so now we move now to the Q&A session. We have seen the questions that the participants are asking on the platform, on the Q&A part of the webinar, and we encourage you to just stay mute and then stay waiting. They will all be attended to, right? So we move to the first question. What is digital identity and how is it being deployed in different countries globally? What is digital identity and how is it being deployed in different countries globally? We invite Matt to help us tackle this question. Matt Homlert, please help us with this question. Over to you, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Well, first of all, when we talk about digital identity, for some countries, digital identity is actually the physical plastic card with some digital stored information on. In the other end, in other more advanced countries, digital identity is very much the mobile digital identity, which of course enables a lot of different things when it comes to how you use it. But the actual answer is, I mean, what is digital identity and how is it being deployed? Digital identity is a set of validated digital attributes and credentials that matches the real person behind it. So that can be stored on a physical card, but it can also be stored on your mobile device. When it comes to the different countries, as I mentioned, some countries are only using the plastic cards with the digital ID implemented in it. And some more advanced countries, and I mentioned already when I introduced myself today, that Sweden and Estonia, for instance, they have been working within this space for the last 20 years. And that also means that they have passed from digital identity into mobile identity, and they have had mobile identity for more than 10 years, perhaps 12 years or something like that. And then, of course, there are some other countries that are normally mentioned quite often, and that are usually China, Canada, and Singapore. And for the vast majority of countries out there, they have decided to go this route, but they have perhaps not started the project, or if they have started it, they have, most of them, not implemented it yet. So globally, it's still a very early phase. But I mean, what we see is that this will move on rather quickly. So when you start doing this, it's no way back, really. So I would say that is we will see a number of countries going from digital identity into mobile identity rather quickly the following years.
Wow, yeah, thank you so much. Thank you very much, Matt, for that response. And yes, severally too, I've noticed that of late, a lot of people do not have complementary cards now. What they have is just a code. You use your mobile device to just scan the code, and then every identity of theirs is out there. Please, can we have more contributions to this question from other panelists, please? Further contributions from other panelists, please.
Sure, and as Mats mentioned, there's a lot of different initiatives going on around the world, and there's still the need for governments to really figure this out from a national level and identifying all their citizens in some countries as well. I do know about some countries in the sub-Saharan region that has actually paid upwards of hundreds of millions of dollars to identify the population and actually provide the population with a identification code or identification number in order to use that to open up bank accounts and so forth. But there's those type of initiatives that sometimes go to the peak and then they stop. But there needs to be a continuous work effort put through to really enable this in a broader perspective. That's the way I see it.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Victor, for your contributions. And no worries, Nigeria is following suit as well as a nation, like you encouraged. Thank you. So we move to the next question. The next question is, what is the current state of digital identity in Nigeria? What challenges to success would digital identity face in Africa and in particular Nigeria? What is the current state of digital identity in Nigeria? What challenges to success would digital identity face in Africa and particular in Nigeria? Arinze, you said something in this line, so please, could you help us answer this question? Thank you.
Okay, if Arinze is not available, I can actually respond to that. Okay, so let me go ahead. All right, so digital identity in Nigeria has come a long way in the sense that there's a demarcation between the public sector and the private sector. So what is going on in the public sector is that data is being captured in silos by different government agencies, and these data, they are not integrated. They are not, the agencies, even though they are all federal government agencies, they are actually not having a central data system. So each agency captures their own data as needs be. And it means that the population is actually providing data to different agencies. For instance, during election, you go and capture data for election. When you want to travel, you go and do data capture for your passport. And when you want to drive a car, you do data capture for driver's license. And then when you want to do your BVN for the bank, you do another data capture for BVN, and then you do another data capture for national identity. So at the end of the day, this creates a lot of problems because people can actually provide inaccurate data or different type of data across these different platforms. So the integration of data is something that has not been done by the federal government, so that there will be a central data system where the data is the same, because the federal government is supposed to have the same data for every citizen. But when you're having data being captured by different agencies from the same federal government, you're going to have different kinds of data for the government. Each citizen is going to be providing different types of data and all that. And then secondly, the private entities have made more progress in this regard because of the fact that their business is tied to proper identification of customers. So what is going on there is that you have the telcos, and then you have the banks. They've invested a lot in digital identity, and they continue to invest in digital identity to make sure that customers are secured, customers are well identified, and customers use their identity to access business services. So you have to make phone calls with your phone number, or you have to use your account number to do banking business. So these are very critical identity, and that is why they are not a multi-silos. These identities by these sectors are well captured in a central manner, so that all your services are attached to your main data identity.
So this has been the current trend, and we hope that there will be a lot of progress both in the public sector and also in the private sector. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Touch, for that insight. Thank you very much. Arinze, you may want to make more contributions to this question.
Okay, thank you so much. So, digital identity, in Nigeria, little or no progress has been made. Well, I'll say little. Yeah, because you find out a situation that even despite all the costs and all the funds that federal government have pumped into that, various agencies tend to capture all theirs, and this is not harmonized. So it actually poses a whole lot of challenge. Then again, even the point of enrollment too, for all these agencies are capturing, is also a very big problem. Now there's the infrastructural challenge. Most times I know when people trying to capture the NIMC, national identity information, you see a whole lot of queues. When a few set of people are captured, then of course there will no longer be power, so people will have to come back the next day. So the organization is very poor. Even though those agencies are doing it, the organization on its own is actually very poor. So it's actually affecting the success. Well, sometime in 2009, government made a move to set up a steering committee that will drive the harmonization of all this information, trying to gather what all the various agencies have captured, to put everything together. So there will just be one identity that will be all encompassing for everybody in the nation. Well, I would say the progress is still being made. The setup is still being organized, so it has not been fully set up, but they've made some quite some progress. And then another challenge you also have is the awareness. They're not really creating the government chooses what they do. They're not even carrying people along. For instance, in the rural environment, this is not even going on at all. You can see them set up one set up location in the one each local government. But most of these things are not even functional. People are not even aware that they are supposed to go and do that. So you find a situation for a country that is over 180 million, you find a situation where less than 40 million have actually been captured. So it actually poses a challenge. The private organizations, like my colleague said, and of course the bank being one of them, they are the ones that have actually moved further, in that regard, because for you to actually access your transaction remotely, of course, there has to be some form of identity. So virtually all banks customers, I would say today, have a BVN. If you don't have BVN today, for instance, we are going to block your account. Your account will be on post no debit until you have gone to enroll. But that alone is actually not sufficient. There has to be a unique, digital identity for the nation, which is actually happening in a civilized world. Well, let's see what this steering committee comes up with.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Vivian, may I comment as well?
Okay.
Thank you. I think this is super interesting with storing, data in different silos, and that you have so many different stakeholders in this. The challenge, both the challenge, but also a possibility is, if you can trust the different silos, meaning that you're sure that nothing is compromised within the different silos, would be interesting to see how you could actually onboard that data up to a digital identity database. So you actually could use that as an onboarding process. And if that's not the case, it is the technology today is actually already there, which means that you can onboard up to a digital mobile identity database. And actually, when having that, all of a sudden, you can share these functionality and this opportunity between the different silos. So, but this is something for both Victor, COVR Security, and perhaps AVRUST to discuss further after this seminar, how that could be taken care of.
Definitely. Just to add on to that, Mats, I think a very, very interesting topic to also cover in our podcast up ahead.
Okay, thank you, Victor, for being so proactive. Yes, I'm COVR and AVRUST. I'm sure after now, they will brainstorm to come up with something, something further. You know, thank you once again. So we move to the next question. The next question is, please, for the participants, I can see the questions you're putting up there, and they are all taken care of. We are all noting them. They will all be attended to, please. We'll move to the next question. What are the key trends you see for cybersecurity in Africa and Nigeria? What are the key trends you see for cybersecurity in Africa and then Nigeria? Engineer Touch, please, could you help us tackle this question? Cybersecurity trends you see in Africa and Nigeria. Over to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that question. And so we are actually here in Nigeria, and we can see what is going on globally. This is actually still a very much a pandemic scenario. So the pandemic is not yet over. It started over a year ago. And what has happened is that both Nigeria and other developing countries, both within and outside Africa, was actually caught on unawares because we are not yet advanced in provisioning of business services remotely. And this affected a lot of developing economies. A lot of countries are actually still having the economic impact of COVID, because we had a total lockdown in Nigeria for 3 months, sometime last year. And I know that many other countries had total lockdowns for such a period or even more. So what total lockdown means is that any business that cannot provide, any company that cannot, any business that you cannot access remotely, that business is shut down. That business is closed down full time for those periods. And you can imagine what it means for your business not to run for 3 months. A lot of businesses have not recovered from that. And it had a huge impact. So what it means is that everybody learned from that, and everybody had invested in cybersecurity that will enable remote work and also enable remote provisioning of services, because you have to provision the service remotely and customers have to access it remotely. So we are playing catch up in Africa and in Nigeria based on that, because in developed countries, this has been in place for over 25 years. If you check when Amazon started, it was actually in the 90s, and they have been doing buying and selling online. So in most of the developed countries, people stayed at home and they were able to get food and water and other basic amenities they delivered to them. They were actually shopping online and doing their banking online as well. So Africa and Nigeria had to play a quick catch-up. So a lot of people invested heavily on the spot in order to make sure that their services are available. So the trend now is basically cloud services, securing your cloud, securing your VPN for your employees, and making sure that you have a remote workforce solution that will secure your access, employees' access, and making sure your business is running on the cloud so that customers can have access to that. So when your business is running on the cloud, it means that you also have to secure your business on the cloud. So this has been the current trend: cloud infrastructure, cloud security, remote workforce infrastructure, and remote workforce security. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Touch. Do we have further contributions, please? Further contributions from other panelists concerning the digital trend, the trends in cybersecurity in Africa?
I think Touch touched really, really good on it, and fully in line with what he mentioned there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, this is Arranger. So it just aligns with what Touch has said. You know, I will say that the new normal, which is remote work occasioned by the pandemic crisis, actually took Africa unawares. So you find out a situation where we are on lockdown and definitely work has to go on. You have to still provide services for us, for instance, those in the banking services, in the telco services, and in all other online services. So you have to ensure that it's still going on. So problem during this period, because the VPN connectivity, which organizations now have to adopt to access resources in the office, was compromised for some organizations, and fraudsters, you know, use that to penetrate into the system and gain unauthorized access into the organization, and of course perpetrated frauds. So for me, the demand for cybersecurity in Africa is actually increasing. Organizations are becoming more aware. Organizations are making efforts to make sure that their businesses are secured, you know, from hackers and all that. Because definitely they have to run their business, but they have to ensure that the business is secure. So the trend is actually going.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And as the trends are, as it's trending, we'll get there. We'll get better by then. And that's the reason for this. So for the participants, please, as these conversations are making the rounds, let's pick what we need to pick to take back for ourselves, for our business plan, for our organizations. We move to the next question now. Organizations in Nigeria use various forms of identification for KYC, such as the BVN, the NIN, driver's license, and all whatnot. So knowing the successes that Bank ID solution has in Europe, what benefit does adopting an eKYC feature give to an average Nigerian? Yes, organizations in Nigeria, we use various forms of identifications for know your customer. So knowing the successes that the Bank ID solution has in Europe, like one of the panelists said in his presentation, what benefit does adopting this know your customer feature, what the features it has, what does it give to an average Nigerian? Victor, please, could you help us with this question, because you spoke more about the electronic know your customer. Thank you.
Yep, thanks. I was thinking to raise my hand and grab that question anyway. If we base it on the success story that we've had from our legacy way back in 2002, 2003, while our founder actually was the architect behind the Swedish Bank ID, the success right now for the Bank ID in Sweden is upwards of 99.2% of the population. So that means that it's connected to more than 3,800 services. It's utility companies, it's banks, it's a lot of different services. So originally, now this is where it differentiates very, very much from country to country, that in Sweden, the 6 largest banks went together as a consortium to not challenge security between the banks for the bank's all end users, because you may have bank accounts in one bank and in another bank as well. So instead of compromising the security, they chose to create the Bank ID from the architectural design that we did. And from there, you know, the rest is history. But there's so many different connectivity services, like end-to-end usability, peer-to-peer payments, connecting this to tax authorities, and using this to actually get your tax refunds even earlier. But when it comes to the identification process there in Sweden, how this works is that we have something called a national identity number, or a personal number, which is directly translated in Swedish. So it is our date of birth plus 4 digits. Those digits resemble if you're a male or female, and other different components of where you're born and stuff like that. So that is used to authorize transactions and identify you as a user. However, it is a little bit outdated here in Sweden still, because we need to go to the branch offices to actually acquire our Bank ID. So as you saw in the presentation here that I did recently, instead of going to the branch office and acquiring some identification form or similar, we can do this online by presenting your identity document and this biometric. So it doesn't really matter what type of a document it should be. There are, unfortunately, some countries like Myanmar, where I do know where they have handwritten identity cards. Those may be a little bit harder to work with because you never know who's writing them as well. So that's my take on it, and mainly, you know, having the approach of getting the user to control that type of data. That's probably the important thing to take away from here.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you so much. This is really getting interesting. Really, it's getting more interesting. Please, can we have contributions from other panelists as to what the eKYC featured solution will give to an average Nigerian? Saying that Victor said it's 99.3% success in Europe or in Sweden. Sorry. More contributions, please.
Yes, I can add a few as well. First of all, I would say that the security for the individual will be very much improved. Because if you as an individual are the first one to be noticed, if anyone tries to compromise your credentials or your identity, you will be the one who get noticed about that. And so, and if you don't approve, the action will never take place. So improved security is one thing that will definitely be delivered to the individual. User experience will also be a benefit for that individual. And then I would see that on a country level, there are actually many things that will be improved. But for the entrepreneurs, for instance, those who would like to start up a business, they will also gain positive benefits from this. So that's just a few comments from my end. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the individual and to startups. Great. I believe the participants are taking notes. Myself, I'm taking notes as well. Thank you very much. So we move to the next question. What has been the experience of the Bank ID solution in Europe, and how is Bank ID being used in everyday life of an average person in Europe? Matt, please don't go too far. You're smiling. Okay, yeah. Please, over to you.
Yes, I realize I have already started to answer that question, but I'll do it again. So there are several things that I would like to address here. It's, as I mentioned just before, first, the security will be improved. That is a cornerstone in this. Customer experience has improved, but also efficiency when it comes to manual work. So I mean, in the old way, how it worked here in Sweden, a lot of things was manual, but with a digital mobile identity implemented in the society, a lot of manual work has just vanished. And then we have the speed of innovation in society. We have seen among all startups, all innovation companies, that when you have a digital or mobile digital identity implemented in the country, you can move much quicker when it comes to actually starting new type of business and new type of innovations. So that is something really great. And what you also can see, and as I mentioned earlier, that with a digital mobile identity implemented in the country, that will actually improve the country's GDP growth. And I talked earlier about between 3 and 13%. Depending on what type of country, if you're a very mature country or a more emerging market development country. So that are some feedback on that question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt. We proceed again. I would like to take one question from the audience. One of them is asking, what are the fundamentals going into cybersecurity? probably this person is in technology, but trying to transit or transition into cybersecurity? What are the fundamentals? Any of the panelists can take this, please.
All right. I would like to say one or two things in that direction. Having been in the industry for a while, when it comes to, okay, the thing is, when it comes to cybersecurity, that there are actually two angles to it. Are you a consumer or you want to be on the consulting or vendor side? So it depends on how when you say the fundamentals, because the concept is the same, but it's your angle can be different. So if you're working in the banks or you're working in a company that needs technology solution, so you're going to be a consumer of cybersecurity products and services. But if your approach is if your angle is from the vendor side, then you are the one providing those services. But either way, the knowledge and the concept is the same. The products are the same. It's just who is pushing it and who is receiving it. That is what the difference is. But the important thing there is that, like I said earlier, the first and most important basic concept in cybersecurity is your network security. That is the first thing. Because once you create an organization, you create a network. You have an office network. So that network must be secured. It's not even an option. It must be secured. So when you talk about cybersecurity, the first and most important thing is network and device security. So all the devices and the nodes on that network and the network itself have to be secured. So if one wants to know the starting point, that is the starting point. You talk about device security and you talk about network security. And there are many products and services that are centered around it, around the network and device security. So starting from firewalls, starting from all forms of network security devices and all that. So anybody that is looking for basic points of entry or basic concepts, either as a consumer or as a provider, has to start from network and device security. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Touch. The person that asked this question, I believe you will listen through, and if you're not cleared, please come up with your specifics. Do you mean as a carrier or do you mean as a consumer? You know, that will help narrow down your response, and that will be sent to your email if this was not what you intended to ask. I mean, if the response did not capture what you asked, please notify us via email so that the correct response will be given to you. We are really watching our time. Let's move to the next question now. What solution architecture would be required for launching a digital identity solution? What solution architecture? I believe this will also answer a bit of Nathaniel's question on the fundamentals of going into cybersecurity. And please, we invite Victor, who is a solution expert here, to help us with this. What solution architecture would be required for launching a digital identity solution? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll take it from a general point, and I think Tosh can probably cover it on the fundamentals in Nigeria and other surrounding countries with his extensive experience. And looking at it from the approach, what needs to be in place, there needs to be a decision. If we look at this from a governmental perspective, that there is an approach and a drive ahead to that type of digitization or that type of innovation. But also there needs to be participants from multiple different industries. I think I covered this quite extensively as well, that this type of fundamental ecosystem is really what needs to be driven ahead in order for this to be a success in general as well. So considering that, if we look at this from another approach, the user experience is mainly the key. So I'd like to, really enhance the part that if you are going to drive one of these type of initiatives, you need to have a user-first approach rather than looking at this from the angle that this is good for me as a business, this is good for me as a government. The user is, key because if you can attract the user, you won't succeed. I don't know what you say, Touch.
Yeah, you're very much in line. You're very much correct, because at the end of the day, it's just a mixture of securing the user and also providing the user with good user experience. So it has to be a combination of both. And at any time T, each time you try to push one, the other one is being compromised. Because if you are trying to make the user experience to be very easy and fluid, you may end up not putting enough security. And then if you try to put too much security, you may end up hampering user experience. So there has to be a mixture of both in the right proportion so that the business will continue to make money.
No, fully agree.
Okay, Victor, you want to say something else?
No, I'm just
Okay,
on the same page. So
it's for both.
I'm fine.
Okay, thank you so much for those contributions. So another audience is asking, is the solution only limited to Nigeria? And if no, what approach are you using to reach other nations? Is this solution only limited to Nigeria? And if no, what approach are you using to reach other nations?
I can cover that.
Matt, please, could you help us at that?
So looking at it from the different angles, as I mentioned, the interoperability between countries is probably the key. However, with our platform in general is interoperable, so we can work cross borders, cross nations, and that way cross continents, and really cross industries. So depending on if you're focusing on services that are national services, it's of course, it can be limited to that, to not have any outsiders from other countries to be able to have their digital identities working towards that type of ecosystem. As a matter of fact, as well, you can do it the other way around. So you can open it up towards people from outside the country to register or onboard towards a bank. So if you're a bank looking at expanding your business, that's a very, very good thing for them as well, to attract even more customers from other countries.
I can comment on that one as well. I mean, some countries, they would like that some part of the authorities in the country should be the one who is actually controlling this and actually authorize or give out these digital identities or mobile digital identities. But some countries can also authorize, for example, a bank or several banks in a country to be the distributors of such a digital ID or mobile ID. And the reason for that is that, well, larger banks, they are normally having the right procedures and the processes on how to make a KYC on a customer, make sure that they have the right address and everything, all their credentials in place. So that could be also an alternative, how you can reach out to the consumers or the citizens in a country. And there are also other alternatives. So there are many ways how you can do this. But I think always that one should look on, I mean, if you really would like to reach the whole country, the whole population, it could be smart to look on different distribution channels of that ID and see how could those actually work together.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Matt, for the contribution, and well taken. It's well taken. Okay. So we move to the next question. We are really running out of time, and I would like, or we're gradually coming to an end. The next question we have here is, some countries in Africa or Nigeria in particular still have power failure issues to be able to sustain developing trend in technology such as digital identity and all the others. So what effort is put in place to tackle such challenge, or what do you think we can do to solve this? So power failure issues in some African countries, and how can they adopt digital identity when there are power fluctuations in Nigeria and other African countries?
I can touch quickly on that as well, based on experience on what we've done is that if you have a secure digital identity in that way or using biometrics in any way, you're actually enabling the process where you can ensure who has access to telecommunication towers or electricity stations where maintenance needs to be done. So both battling this from the perspective that it's the right engineer that may be, or the service technician that may be the one handling the issue, but also from the standpoint that for any sabotage, it actually helps a lot by using that type of service. So that's mainly based on experience, but there's probably different approaches.
Okay, I just want to quickly mention something there, since we are running out of time. Most times the challenge is actually in the capturing of data, because definitely the data owner would have alternative source of power at the storage points. So when you have all these data being captured, those capturing the data have the infrastructure to store it, because they have budget for that. They have running maybe Oracle servers in their head office, and they have data centers in their head office as well that are being provisioned by vendors. But the problem is in the capturing, because you have to go to remote areas where there's no power and all that. So what we recommend in that case is to use small solar panels, use alternative sources like batteries, use handheld devices that run on batteries, because you can't be carrying a big PC to remote areas. So if you have handheld devices that are light on power, and you have batteries, you have handheld solar panels, this is very, very important, because here in Africa, a large population, more than half of the population, live in rural areas. So this has to be put into consideration for any data capture that we are doing, be it national ID or for banks. Even this identity issue is also limiting rural people from using bank services. So it's very, very important that it is taken into account that people move to rural areas and do remote capturing of data using alternative power sources that are very light and very mobile. Thank you.
Oh, wow, that was spot on. Thank you so much, Touch. We have just 3 minutes, and we have some other questions here. We have questions around how can value-added services be integrated with the national digital identity solution? What technology can be used to ensure that digital identities are safe and secure? What has been the limitations to two-factor authentication for digital identity? So we have these 3 questions, and I don't know how we can toggle to answer them in the 2 minutes that we have. So please, Victor and Touch, how can value-added services be integrated with a national identity solution? And what technology can be used to ensure that digital identities are safe and secure?
Okay, let me just quickly tackle the first one. I think we're already doing that in Nigeria, because you can see that bank services are linked to BVN, and now telco services are being linked to NIN. So yes, you can actually link identity with services, and that is what we are doing in Nigeria, and I believe other countries are doing that as well, because to be honest, that has saved us a lot of issues. If you know what is going on now, you will know that a lot of criminals, both fraudsters and kidnappers, we are taking advantage of these loopholes that things were happening and there was no identity behind those services. Somebody will make a call and demand for ransom and you don't know who the person is, or somebody will move money around, do money laundering, you don't know who the person is. But with what is going on now, services are being linked to identity. and that is saving the country a lot.
Yeah, and just to add on the last piece there, I think, just solve this. Reach out to us and we'll solve it for you. Right?
Okay, Victor, thank you so much. Thank you for everything. Right, so the last is what have been the limitations of two-factor authentication, digital identity? Okay, Arinze, please.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I mentioned some of these in my slides, but then I have to quickly take them again. Now, the first and foremost is that, one of the key elements that makes up the two-factor authentication is the hardware token. And this hardware token suffers on availability. For instance, you want to make use of your service and you forget your hardware token at home. Definitely, you won't be able to use that service. Then, of course, if for any reason the hardware token is missing, then of course you will not be able to proceed with your transaction. Then we have also recorded cases, even where the algorithm that is used to generate the OTP, because anytime you press the hard token, there's an OTP that comes up. So even there are cases where the algorithm has been stolen. So you find a situation where you're at home with your token, somebody will generate that PIN and use somewhere else. So this is one of the limitations. Then, of course, even for the SMS-based tokens as well, there's what they call man in the middle, wherein an OTP is being sent to you. Somebody will intercept that OTP and actually make use of that to actually carry out transactions. These are some of the limitations that actually, of course, comes up with the two-factor authentication. Then the one other thing is even the biometric too. For instance, you use your fingerprints and all that. As something happens for some reason or the other, the particular part of the body that was used for the biometric is not available then, or something, there's an injury and all that. You find out that this scanner will not be able to read it, so it will not work. You won't be able to use it to make your transaction. So these are some of the limitations that two-factor authentication have.
Yeah, I'm in line with you there, Renzo, when it comes to the man-in-the-middle attacks and these like SMS OTP solutions. They will be outdated as we go ahead, and we see already attacks taking place within that space. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Our time is up, and but we cannot just end the webinar without taking some closing remarks from all our panelists. Someone asked if there will be a replay on YouTube. Yes, there will be a replay on YouTube. Just the mails will be sent out to you as soon as the replay is available on YouTube, so you can catch up with maybe the areas you missed or the areas you really want to cover further. So please, let's have the closing remarks from all the panelists, and I begin with Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Yes, it has been really interesting to participate today, and I fully understand the challenges that you have in Nigeria, taking care of that some parts of the countries are remote. And I mean, how do you solve the mobility out in those parts? I mean, the handheld devices needs some handheld solar panels or similar to make sure that you have battery and access and all that. So that is one hurdle, but nevertheless, I think it's absolutely possible to get over that hurdle. And I also see alternatives or possibilities to actually onboard the different silos that you have in the country today. So I'm really looking forward to see how you will continue to actually develop in Nigeria, moving from the present situation more to mobile digital identity and even becoming cashless for the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt. Victor, please, your closing remarks. Thank you.
Sure. So I think we've emphasized it, and I think we've said probably 100 times. User experience, user experience, user experience, and also putting the user first in many areas. And really, of course, when it comes to digital identity, it's about the user. It's their identity, it's not someone else's. And let's just make sure that the user is in control of what they share with whom. So with that said, yeah, look forward to speaking with even more people about this and seeing what other initiatives we can do in other African countries as well.
Thank you so much, Victor. Arinze, please, over to you. Your closing remarks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful outing today, and I must say that I'm highly privileged to be part of one of the panelists in this occasion. I've actually, even though I'm a speaker, I've also learned a lot from my co-speakers too. Then the solution which COVR and all that is offering, I feel we should try and reach out to the banks and other organizations in Nigeria, because I see it's quite needed. Then even the government too, as it is, government actually need help because they are struggling with all this issue of digital identity capturing. So they need help. So the experience from Sweden and all that will also be brought forth to Nigeria. So one way or the other, there could be success. So the Nigerian partners, we should find a way to also reach out to the government coffers. I believe they are not difficult to reach, so that they can also actually help and ultimately help the nation in general. Thank you.
Yeah, you're spot on there. All noted. Thank you so much. Engineer Touch, please, over to you.
All right, thank you very much. This has been a very wonderful session, and we are hoping that all the participants actually got a lot of insights from this session. And I would like to say that going forward, we have to simply accelerate what we are doing in Nigeria and in Africa as a whole. Yes, we have some limitations around budget and financing, because the truth of the matter is that cybersecurity, digital identity, they cost a lot, because you are looking at a huge number in terms of customer base, in terms of population base and all that. But the truth of the matter is that if Africa and Nigeria wants to take it serious, we have to put more budget. We're already doing something, but we need to accelerate what we're doing. We need to put in more investment to it. We need to put more budget to it, and we need to make sure that it's happening both in rural areas and in urban areas as well. Because the truth of the matter is that it helps in economic growth. Like one of the speakers has said, it is very, very key in economic growth. So it's not something that is optional. It's something that we need to accelerate our efforts, accelerate our investment in it, so that in the next 5 to 10 years, Africa would have been able to catch up with other developed countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Todd. And with these remarks, we have come to the end of today's webinar. We want to thank all the participants for making our time to be here with us. The information concerning the podcast will be shared to your email addresses, the one you registered for this webinar with. And for all the feedbacks taken on how to strategize to reach out to the government agencies on how to partner better with AVRUST and COVR Security to make sure that this is implemented, seeing that it's going to help a lot in our self-protection as individuals, and also the security of the society at large, even our nation, Nigeria. When Touch said something about people, one is kidnapped and people call for ransom and you're not able to trace the identities of such people. Since we have a solution that can do all those things, we are going to really strategize on how to launch big in having this solution in Nigeria. And on behalf of the organizers, we say a very big thank you once again to AVRUST, to COVR Security, and to Cloud Technologies, to all the panelists, and to you, the wonderful attendees, for making our time here with us today. So from us is bye-bye from us. Thank you once again, and bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
With a massive asset value of over 30 trillion naira, the banking industry in Nigeria is one of the strongest economy driving force for the West African giant. According to TechPoint.Africa, online transactions has a value of over $100 billion since the third quarter of 2020. and the number just doesn't stop. However, there is a very big challenge with this result. Every day, some of these transactions are tampered with. Your account could experience some unauthorized debit alert, or a transaction you have made which seems to have gone through but was never credited to the receiver. Yes, something went wrong just between the transactions. Sometimes you contact your bank and they are able to verify the issue and get your problem solved. But how about when your bank can't help you? What happens when even the technical staff from the bank can't verify the source of your tampered transaction? Then you may need the extra help of a cyber expert. But what if I told you that you can completely avoid such kind of scenarios occurring during your transactions? What if your bank implemented that one extra step to help you ensure your money is safe and transactions are more secure? The power of digital security. AVRUST Consult Nigeria, in partnership with the Sweden-based digital security experts, COVR Security, have brought this cutting-edge technology to the doorstep of Nigeria to help ensure a higher level of security for all kinds of high-relevance internet activities in the country, such as secure banking transactions, protection of highly sensitive data of patients and hospital staff in the medical sector, data security for government sectors handling information of high relevance belonging to individuals and organizations in the country, such as the Corporate Affairs Commission, the Nigeria Stock Exchange, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, and many more. With the high increase in internet fraud and cyber threats in Nigeria in recent years, we are committed to ensuring everyone's online information is safer, that people can trust organizations with their money and online data when such organizations integrate our digital security tools into their systems, and that everyone is well educated on the various security protocols which would keep them away from becoming victims of cyber threats or fraudulent internet activities. The concept of digital security must be adopted by every citizen. This technology must be integrated by every organization which falls within the industrial sectors handling sensitive data or resources of individuals and other organizations. And every expert or aspiring expert in this domain of cybersecurity must advance their knowledge in digital security to ensure a safer and more secure digital society in the country.